everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have a special guest all the way from Ireland, Lorraine Coffey, also known as Lorrie. So, welcome, Lorrie.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. It's so lovely to meet you.
I am so excited to interview you today, and I'm so grateful that you said yes. So, for those of you listening, Lorrie is a spirit artist. And I know, even for myself, I have like a million questions because people are always so curious about, I know I am, about spirit artists. Like, how does one become a spirit artist? Like, how did it all begin for you?
Well, I would still constantly ask myself that question, Um, how did it begin? Well, I wasn't really any good at school whatsoever. Um, and it was a real challenge for me. But the only comfort I got about being in school was I would always doodle. I'd always be kind of disappearing off into the clouds, looking out the window and doodling. So it was the only thing that ever really gave me any comfort. Not that that was going to necessarily lead me to become a spirit artist, but um, I had had a number of experiences as a child. I would have been, as I said, very dyslexic. So a lot of things were quite challenging for me as a child. But my only escape or anything that made me feel good was, I would spend time in nature. Or I'd love being with the trees or in the forest. And so I was always kind of very introverted, but got great comfort in that because I was in my own little world. And I suppose being in that little world, I didn't realize it was a very sensitive place to be. And I would often have like experiences like senses, premonitions, just thoughts that were maybe a little abstract that maybe others wouldn't understand. I might see things, and like a lot of children do. But it was the one place that always gave me this sense of comfort, when I would sense something outside of me that others couldn't see. I would always feel there's something really beautiful,
Yeah.
where I'd have this sense of comfort and that, the challenges of life as a child
Yeah.
were kind of that was the only thing that helped me get through that because I found it so hard. I was quite frightened of life actually as a child when I look at it. But so it was that. I don't even know what the word is to put upon it, but it was just I couldn't see it, but I could feel this sense of something. And it kind of stayed with me all through my like younger years into my teenage years and then obviously into my 20s. But there was one moment when I was 11, and I was being sent off with my brothers and sisters to do the weekly shopping with my dad. And my mum had said, you're going to go off shopping and I'm going to stay at home. But I immediately, now that'd be quite normal to do, but I immediately got this sense there was something not right. And I got very uptight. Everybody was put into the car, and, two brothers and sister, we were all fighting in the back of the car. And my dad was giving out to everyone, telling us to be quiet. And this sense that something was wrong kept growing and growing. And I said to my dad, we've got to turn the car and go back home to mum. There's something wrong. And of course, he was like, will you ever stay quiet, and stop annoying me? We're going to the shops. And it got so strong, I started to see pictures of my mother sitting in her armchair with her eyes closed. And I was also starting to hear this voice as clear as anything saying to me, you must tell your father you are seeing this and we're helping you see this. And when you tell him we are helping you to see this, he will turn the car and go home. So I said it to him again, and it was still, no way. And I said, "Oh, okay, Dad, somebody is speaking to me." And he kind of, sat up in the car, and he just turned the car, and we headed home. And I remember I had been getting this awful smell of gas, seeing my mother sitting in the chair. And I was so frightened at the thought that I knew something was terribly wrong. But I remember just getting back to the house and him running up with a key. And as he turned the key and, opened the door, the gas came out of the house. And somehow or other, the gas had been left on or something. We're not sure. But it was that voice and those pictures, those images saved my mum's life. And it was such a traumatic experience at one level for a young child,
Yeah.
but it also left this profound something with me, that's something that I always had felt was traveling with me, that I couldn't actually put a picture on it, only that it was beautiful and comforting and full of love, had actually helped me to save my mum's life, And so I traveled kind of with that all through those next years, if you like. Like I became an athlete. That was my love in life. I was an international athlete. I was a javelin thrower on the Irish team and hoping to go to Barcelona Olympics. And that all came crashing down when I got a serious injury. And this is kind of the start of my journey into, eventually it would be another 10 years before I would become a spirit artist as such. But it kind of went from that into, another 10 years of complete trauma with a horrific marriage and surviving that. And I know you've asked me the question, how do I become a spirit artist? I'm eventually going to get,
Keep going. For a
but
coffee chat, you can wait.
I was in my mid-20s. I'm going to fast forward, and I was, as I say, surviving this horrific marriage with my two beautiful little girls. And I had gotten to a place that I couldn't do anymore. I was either going to die or, I even had thought, I just can't do this anymore. So I was thinking there's one way out. And I was really looking at that because I just couldn't cope anymore with the abuse. And I remember sitting, I was actually hiding in a cupboard in my bedroom. And I remember praying and praying and praying to God and saying, if you really are there, you will help me. I want to be here for my little girls. I can't do this anymore. And we were really suffering. And I remember being so exhausted with just trying to survive, I couldn't even pray anymore. That night, I went to bed and there was nobody home except my two beautiful little girls in the next room. And I had a little TV up in the corner of the room. And I had it on a timer, but I would always have it on to help me go to sleep. So it would always go off the same time every night. And anyway, so that's what happened. I went off asleep. And during the night, I woke up, I could hear noises. And I thought, gosh, that's strange. The TV is still on. It went off. And I looked at my watch and it said 5 to 2 in the morning. And when I went to sit up to get the TV controls, there was this most beautiful man standing at the end of my bed. And he was just full of the most beautiful and radiant light in this dark room, apart from the TV still been on in the corner. And he had the most beautiful porcelain skin and beautiful hair brushed back. Um, his eyes were just big and brown, and he had the most magnificent brown robes on, but woven with gold thread all the way through. It was like copper. It was like the color of copper. And he had a shoulder piece of cloth, wrapped around him with beautiful, they looked like diamonds or crystals hanging from them. It was just the most glorious sight. He didn't verbally speak to me, but he spoke to me through my mind. And he just, I had this most immense sense of peace and comfort. And it was like, you are going to be okay. And life is going to change for you, and we've heard your prayer. And I remember just lying back down. And I remember waking up the next morning, and it was like, instead of waking up with this awful horror of surviving the next day, I woke up with this just absolute joy and excitement and strength that, life was actually going to change. And I had had this incredible experience. And it was like all of a sudden, Lorraine was back, because I was gone somewhere else. And it wasn't though my life was kind of, magic wand after this experience or this apparition that everything's going to be fine. I had a lot of other stuff, but I had this strength to go through it instead of opt out of it. So I was given this incredible strength to move through it all, change my life, and bring my two little girls and myself to safety. So that was the real start of my journey.
Oh, wow.
And things started to change immediately, because it was like all those channels immediately had opened. It was like boom, 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 I was seeing things, I was hearing things. It was like, it was all there. I'm sure you understand that. And it was like that whole sensitivity, or being aware of that unseen world, was very seen to me, and felt, mainly felt, but definitely seen. And I could hear things. So I started actually, strangely enough, all of a sudden just helping people with issues or even health issues, because it was like I had this kind of communication to do with one's body. So it was kind of, this training had started already, with spirit,
Yeah.
and helping me to understand the sensations, the feelings, the images, and have the courage to actually say something and put a hand out to somebody, and maybe offer them that beautiful comfort I had been given to help me get my life back on track and have some purpose in life. So that's how it started. But as time went on, that was kind of going for about 4 years. And one day, after I had been with somebody, we were doing a kind of a one-to-one or whatever. I never really knew what they were, or I never knew what to call them. These, when people would come and we'd have a little visit or a chat. But yeah, one day I remember feeling something's going to change, something's changing, something's not right. And I knew I had to stop doing what I was doing. And like, that was scary, because it had brought me to a place where it had given me a purpose in life. And it was also helping others. So I was a little uncertain, nervous, but I had promised myself I would always listen to that call of spirit,
Yeah.
because before I hadn't, and it had gotten me into some trouble. I'd
Mhm.
gone against my gut instinct, and it had brought me down roads that were pretty awful. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stop doing my work. So I didn't know how long it was going to be for, but all I knew was that I had to just be really quiet. And I had developed this love of nature, where I just love to go and sit in distant stillness in the forest. And there's some magnificent forests in Ireland, but it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and there was no communication, nothing. There was nothing. And one day I went back down to where I used to work from. And as I was going through the doors, it was like this big booming voice came straight through and just said, okay, we want you to start painting the world that we bring to you. And you will understand later on how it will help others. But first, it's to help you. And immediately it was like, I always feel like I'm plugged in and I get this huge excitement when something like that happens to me. And like I had never painted, I'd never sketched, I doodled in school, but that was about it. I've no training, no nothing. I've actually no training in anything. Been very honest. I have no training in anything. I have no qualifications in anything. But I realize I'm spirit trained.
Good.
um, I was so just filled with this excitement about, painting and drawing. And I thought, oh God, I immediately went to the local art shop. I got bits of everything, didn't know what I was doing, tried pencils, it was awful. Paintbrushes was horrific. I was going, what am I doing, everything would just seemed a mess. I was going, why am I doing this? And then one day I found pastels and I started to use them and, work with my fingers. And all of a sudden, I saw this magnificent angel just appeared in front of me. And so I started painting angels. I felt really inspired to paint angels. I didn't know where it was going, what it was going to do, but I started to get really beautiful, inspirational words and messages with each piece. And I felt they were very healing and helpful for me. They were helping me kind of explore different aspects of myself or how to look at life. They were quite philosophical. So they were like teachings as such.
Yeah.
And anyway, fast forward, a lot had happened in between then. I met my wonderful husband that we're still together now so many years later, but we had moved to this beautiful place in County Wicklow in Ireland. And we bought this lovely house, and on the end of it was this massive big space that used to be a nightclub. So it was like bidding, I was told, hang all the paintings, hang all the writings, put a little sign outside and just open the doors and let spirit do the rest. So that was when what we created, God, it's 20 something years ago, became known as the Angel Sanctuary, which was established in Wicklow. And people would just come from everywhere. We just opened the doors to just sit in stillness and quiet. We opened a little coffee shop beside it, apart from it. So if anyone wanted to come in afterwards, they could come in and just sit down and have a chat. But it was very much so a space for people that, with the energy that spirit created, when a person would go in, anything was possible. And there were some just incredibly beautiful, moving, humbling stories came from people sitting in that energy that spirit had created for us, and just to sit in quiet with the images and the words. And that became my life and my husband's. And yeah, we just gave our life to it. And subsequently, then it got so whatever, and things happened, and we moved to France with it, and it opened in France. So that's another chapter in my life. But so that was the start or the development of my, if you want to call it spirit art or art with spirit, which is totally abstract because I never thought ever in a million years I would be that. And it's only recently I'm able to actually, I always had a difficulty understanding or actually being able to say I was an artist because again, I had no qualifications, nothing. you know. So I was always kind of, am I allowed to call myself an artist? Should I? So I was always kind of, I feel it's only in the last 2 years I've come out of the closet and owned it, as a medium and an artist. But so that whole kind of experience of just listening to that little call opened and going with it, not knowing what was going to manifest, um, realizing I hadn't any experience as an artist or training, but just listening and going, moving from inside out. That was just mind blowing for me. But that's how I've led my life, from then till now. It still has been extremely challenging, for me personally. But even though we're mediums or we're spirit artists, doesn't mean we're, you know, how would I say, immune from the challenges and struggles of life. But
Right.
yeah, so we just brought it all to France. That's another story, but we ended up in the south of France, in what they call the Holy Grail land and Holy Grail area, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Magdalene area. And we just opened up an angel gallery. Really abstract. These two Irish people with their little Irish kids up a mountain, opening this gallery on top of a mountain with angels.
Love it. I love it.
So yeah, so it just kind of went and got bigger and bigger and developed, and then sculpture and all the rest. So yeah, sorry, I keep talking. Maybe my
I
time.
You know what? I'm so enjoying this, and you have like the most soothing voice. And as you're speaking, it's almost like, I don't know if it's just me, and I hope our listeners are having the same experience. All of a sudden, I'm like, there's angels here, and I can feel the peace. And it's like I do anyways, this experience I'm having as you're speaking, like transported in time. Like it's amazing. Keep talking, you're doing good.
Yeah. Well, we ended up in France. We didn't speak French or anything, but anyway, we just did something mad and adventurous, and again, follow that little voice, of okay, go out there and do something else. And um, yeah, so we were there 10 years, and it was the most incredible experience. And I suppose because it was in France, um, there were people from all around the world started to come and visit. And like we would be open to the public. Now it was always very important to us that it remained a place that was free to enter. There was absolutely nothing attached to it. If you wanted to just go in and be quiet, not speak to anyone, and leave, that was the way we wanted it. But we had our little shop on the side in the hope that, there might be people who would come by, and maybe I always kept the original paintings because that was so important to me. And then we developed kind of, to help support it and stay open, prints and candles and a deck of cards and, all that were kind of derived from the paintings. So that's what kept it going and kept it functioning. And then, I mean, when groups would come, which was lovely, then I would give a little talk about the work and what was behind it and the purpose of it, and some of the stories that came from, even painting the angels is one in particular that's so. It always kind of brings me back down to earth. Just in case you get any notions about yourself, this would always bring you back down to earth and make you remember why you do what you do.
Yeah.
So I'd always share that story about the angel of the innocent, which was always very moving and very pertinent to even what's happening in the world today. And yeah, so I don't know if would you like to hear it, or
Yes. I
again,
actually
it's
wrote that down. I was like, "Oh, when she's done talking, I want to know the story."
well, I suppose it connects in with being a spirit artist as well. And sometimes where spirit will bring you, you know, as you're working as an artist, which is always fascinating too, because I've always found it very meditative as well. And it's my way of kind of just moving with, if it's a piece of pastel, if it's a pencil, I always kind of feel the movement of spirit, you know. I try and feel it. They want me to feel it. So I move with them, and it's like an orchestra, it's like a dance, it's like a melody. That's the way I feel it. And anyway, this particular morning, I just dropped the children to school. And when I came back, I'd always start my cleanup then, like we all do. I'd do the dishes and I'd be looking out the window. And I started to wash the dishes. A lot happens to me when I wash the dishes. It's weird. I have some major things happen to me when I wash the dishes. But I immediately knew somebody was there with me. You know, spirit was calling. And I knew I had to go really quickly and get set up and go into my little room. But it felt different. It just felt really urgent and unsettling. And I hadn't had that experience before. So I was kind of a bit perturbed about it and kind of, oh God, what's happening? So I just got my stuff together and I got my little easel and whatever. And I never know even what color, whatever. But it was the first time I just went to pick something up and I don't remember a thing after it, nothing. Or during it, I should say. But I don't remember painting it. That's what I should really be saying. I don't remember painting it. But I remember the experience of painting it. I just remember putting the pastel to the page, and all of a sudden it was like I was in this most beautiful place. And it was like being, well, heaven, if whatever your idea was, but it was just this bliss. And there was a lot of beautiful sounds, and everything was moving. All these colors were moving, everything was moving. There wasn't any, how would I say, definite image because everything was moving, even the sounds. But then all of a sudden, this image started to form with a movement. And this beautiful being kind of stepped forward, and it was an angel. And it just into my mind, all I could hear was, would you like to participate with us in our mission? And of course I said, yes, you know. And as soon as I said yes, it was like an army of angels gathering. That's the only way I can describe it. I could see all of these beautiful images forming. But within an instant, it changed. And it was like descending into hell. And everything changed. And I was brought to this place where I could observe. I even get a little emotional now thinking about it because of what's happening in the world. And it was so real. But this place that I was brought to was a place where there was just fire. There was buildings had come down. There was rubble everywhere. You could hear children screaming. You could hear mothers wailing, fathers. And I was standing behind, and all those beautiful beings that I had met previous, I could see them all moving forward, but turning into the most beautiful balls of light. You know, the image of them as an angel had come. And I could see these beautiful lights moving in and out of the darkness and over the rubble, through the fires. And where there was a sound, they would go. And I saw the beautiful angel that had asked me, would I like to go on their mission and to understand their mission in our world, pick something up. It started forming, and I just saw it pick something up. And when it turned to me, it had this beautiful child in its arms, but its body was totally broken. And the angel stood there and had big tears rolling down his face and said to me, you know, what you do in this world is indescribable. Our sorrow, I'm sorry, I have to get this right. I can't even really, it's so hard to even feel the words. What you do to each other in this world is indescribable. And so too is our sorrow for what you do to each other in this world. And in an instant, all of a sudden, they were gone. And I was back in my room. And I had this beautiful image painted that I didn't remember painting, but it was the angel that had turned with the child in its arms and who'd asked me would I like to participate in their mission. And it always stayed with me. And for 3 weeks afterwards, I was distraught because I carried the pain inside me of what had happened or where I was brought to the place. But then I also had this incredible love as well that I felt from those beautiful beings, talking about the love that they had for us. You know, our love is indescribable, our love is so great for you. But so too is our sorrow for what you do to each other. And these words just kept coming over and over in my mind, you know. And it was 3 weeks later, and I think the whole world watched it on television, but where a little school in Beslan was taken hostage. And I think there were nearly 400 people, children, mums and dads, and they all lost their lives with a terrorist attack. And I remember my husband bringing home our newspaper. I think we watched it on TV unfold for 3 days because it was when Sky had come in and you were able to see all these things. But my husband brought home the newspaper, and on the front of our national newspaper was a full-size picture of this father carrying his broken child, tears rolling down his face. And it was like that's the reflection of the image that was painted. It was the reflection of the angel who had picked up the little boy. And I understood completely what it meant, what it was saying to us. And yeah, I mean, it was so humbling, and I really felt it helped me remember the purpose of any of our spiritual work, or any of us doing anything, in terms of helping others, or just how we are in the world and how we treat each other, how we interact with each other. And it's so important for us to try and move from that place of compassion and love, rather than what's happening in this world. That story in Beslan is happening today. And, those images of what spirit is having to do day in, day out with all our loved ones, our brothers and our sisters. And so it always left a profound image with me, and it actually was only recently my husband, because I've been very ill for the last 10 years, but my husband recently, because I was trying to just compile the memory of the story, but when he was looking up the dates for Beslan, just to put dates on it, this is just, one day I would love to go there, because he brought up a beautiful image and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "Or maybe you will." He said, "Look at the magnificent sculpture that has been placed there on the site where all those beautiful little children and mums and dads lost their life. It's called the City of Angels. And there's this beautiful angel holding this little broken body." So it's just fascinating, in terms of how spirit is so aware of what's happening, and way before it even does, but it's how our consciousness as a group, all people together, are moving to create these sometimes awful things, but so yeah, that's I was quite a deep story, but it's always it gives me hope, to move forward. And when times get tough, even for myself, to remember, that yes, spirit is there, So yeah, so that was our angel gallery. It was beautiful, beautiful place. But then unfortunately in 2015, just after I had just completed a beautiful body of work that I'd been inspired to do, a sculpture with spirit again. It was called Seven Heads of God. And it was the first body of it was called, well, the main body, and I'm still hoping that one day I can continue with it. It's called The Return of the Gods, but this first little portion of it was called The Seven Heads of God. And there, I had just completed these seven kind of like, full size busts. Um, but I knew something was happening. I wasn't feeling 100%. And I'd had this kind of sense that I had to really finish this, and it was urgent, but I knew something was coming down the tracks. I just knew it. And in 2015, I had a massive seizure at home. I hadn't been well. I was getting very awful nerve pain up my spine. I thought it was just because of my old javelin injury, but I knew even when I would touch the clay or when I was working, there was something wrong with my fingers. I knew something was wrong, but I had a massive seizure at home, and I was airlifted to hospital in Toulouse, and I had practically no vitals, and became critically ill and left bedridden. I I went from 10.5 stone down to 7.5. I couldn't eat. I couldn't walk. I was shuffling, but then it ended up I was completely bedridden. I couldn't speak. My brain wasn't working. I was falling. Um, I lost my voice. So I went through horrific time with no, how would I say, diagnosis. Nothing showed up in any of my tests. So my husband basically took me home, um, and he would spoon feed me to keep me alive. Um, Hospital kept saying, well, there's nothing in her tests. I was even terrified I was going to be put into a mental institution because they were saying it's psychological. But as my family would know me, as a person, a personality, that, no, there's something critically wrong, seriously wrong with her. Um, they got me to the stage where I wanted to come home to die to Ireland. They got me home, and I was having seizures and different things, and I ended up in a local hospital here. And the doctor I came under said, well, there's something seriously wrong with you. So we're going to find out. He was the first doctor who actually said, I know there's something seriously wrong with you, and we're going to find out. And he kept me in hospital for nearly a month, went through all the tests. Now, they still couldn't find anything until he asked me the question, were you ever bitten by anything? And I said, well, 2008, I pulled a tick out of my skull. And I said, but I did go to the doctors. Now, when I pulled it out, my husband, because I'd been speaking to somebody on the street, they asked me for directions, and I put my hand up to my head to think of where to send them. And I felt this lump in my skull, and I thought, oh, what's that? It must be something from a tree, a bud from a tree. It was springtime. And I went to pull it out, and I felt this kind of something latch into my skull. And I got a fright, and I pulled it and threw it, and it basically ran away. And I ran into my husband, and I said, there was something in my head. I was hysterical, and I had a large hole burrowed into my skull. He brought me to chemists immediately. They said that's a tick. Go to the doctors immediately. And I had tests. There was nothing wrong. Lyme's tests, everything. Um, but it obviously had stayed in my system. I got a bull ring as well, and I lost all my hair at the time. This was back in 2008. So it took from then until 2015 to really get into my system, and then I was gone, finished. So it wasn't until 2019 that I got a diagnosis of Lyme's disease, along with all the co-infections. And it's been a very slow road to recovery. So a very desperate time because it was totally just filled with terror and despair every day, you know. Um, and you were totally in between worlds. Anyone who's experienced it, it's a horrific disease. And your whole nervous, I used to get like electric shocks, explosions up my spine. I burst into my head. Just horrifically terrifying. So you're in this place of not been here and not been there, and you were holding on to life, you know, by your nails, you know, and then you couldn't sleep, total insomnia, but you would try and sleep, but you would have terrors of if you do go sleep, you're not going to wake up. Then you would not want to be here anyway. So it was just, and you know, I was in total despair for such a long time. I lost all my faith because there was nothing there. I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't see anything. I'd pray and nothing would happen. And that was the total despair. You know, why? Why has this happened to me? What have I done? You know, why? I thought I was being of service. I thought I was helping others. So there were all these questions, you know, but it I suppose I realize now that all those prayers were coming through or been answered through the incredible, beautiful husband I have and my children. You know, they were there, they were helping me, they were giving me the hope. And yeah, I've just with the treatment that I'm on, I couldn't became seriously ill from the treatment, the medical treatment. So thank God I was passed on to um, medical herbalists. So that's where I've kind of, you know, it's been a long road, but you know, I've gotten some quality of life back and starting to do a little bit of work again. And that's even changed. Obviously, we had to close the beautiful Angel Gallery because my husband had to become my full-time carer. And, you know, so we basically lost everything because, yeah, we lost everything. So, and he just dedicated, I had to have full-time care. So it's only in the last 2 years that, because I've got this strength back, I've started to feel, I had kind of closed off to it. I'll be very honest with you. It was like, is it there? You know, I was questioned everything in that awful place. But just with that little bit of strength, I started to get back. It was like I started to feel that call again. And that's been incredible because it's changed again. So, and I think it's a very gentle way of helping me kind of connect with spirit. And that's where I've kind of gone into this whole realm of which I didn't know existed whatsoever, spirit portraiture, you know, which is
Yes.
just I find mind blowing and phenomenal. So yeah, it's sorry, I'm talking and talking here.
Talking. I love it. I just want to say thank you for sharing that intimate journey. So for those that are listening or watching this video and you're going through something similar like
Mm,
Lorraine, whatever that is, whatever health issue it is, know you're not alone.
yeah,
'Cause I
yeah,
think that's so important. when we share our story, because it's so amazing to share our stories of joy, but I also find when we share our stories of pain and challenges and trauma, so much healing happens and it gives other people permission to share their story and to not feel alone. So,
Yeah.
yes, you're allowed to talk. Talk as much as you want. I do wanted to ask, well, first of all, um, I do want to recommend that people go over to her website and look at the artwork because it is breathtaking. And again, she's not trained. And it's just like, I was looking at it the other day and I was just like, wow, this is so beautiful. So,
Oh.
has your art transformed? Like, is it so much more different than it was before you got sick?
Yes, it's very different. It's like, but I understand it to be like from a different realm. It's like, oh, there are different realms, you know. Um, it's like because the angelic work, it just feels like it's from a completely different world, you know, different place, different dimension.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm learning to understand that, you know, to feel the different worlds that are there. And but as soon as I got this little bit of strength back, you know, again, I always love my pastels, but just using a pencil and it is definitely transformed. I started during COVID. You see, COVID was a wonderful thing in some way for some people. Now, obviously not for everyone, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but for some people, I suppose like me, it was like, oh my God, the world has slowed down to my pace because I was, you know, watching everyone going about their lives, and I was stuck bedridden or on a sofa in the house. So it was like everything slowed down. And my lovely husband, I said, well, you know, would you like to do something online? Because everyone was doing something online. And he said, what about, you know, maybe, you know, looking at your mediumship and, you know, would you like to do that? And of course I said, well, okay, I'll try it, you know, because it would take a lot for me to even sit. But to actually sit for an hour was a lot. But so he found this lovely online circle and I would sit for 2 hours and it's just a development circle with some lovely ladies. And so it started off with that, just, you know, getting in touch with that side of me again and, you know, being able to speak. And I actually realized it was giving me energy. So it was, my husband said, you know, he'd say to me every so often, I'm seeing a transformation in you, you know, something's happening. So keep doing it. So that was really beautiful and encouraging. And so it's like been 2 years of kind of just going into that atmosphere with other wonderful mediums and sitting and, you know, them being supportive and encouraging. So that's been really beautiful. And then it was only about a year and a half ago, because I hadn't done any drawing because it would have been a lot for me to even try or hold because a pencil because of the damage that all my muscles have been through and the strength, you know, in holding things. So, but then one day I was just sitting doodling while somebody was working, you know, in terms of giving a message of mediumship to somebody. And I saw this face and I thought, oh my God, that's interesting, you know? And I just been doodling. So I thought, wow, is this a thing? And then somebody said to me, you know, there is, you know, a kind of a very niche area of mediumship where they do spirit portraiture, and it's basically linking in with somebody in spirit, um, and you capturing their essence and how they look, and you know, they come through with messages, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds incredible, but you know, I don't know if I could do that. But so I just again, I and somebody recommended this other lovely group, and I was just blown away by what they were doing. And I realized, God, it is actually a thing that they do.
It
And
is.
since that moment, it's just like I became totally obsessed with it, or you know, that excitement I spoke about earlier on that brought me down roads. I said, okay, there's an excitement there. So I'm going to follow it. And it has just, it's blown my mind. It absolutely has blown my mind that as a spirit artist, well, there's different elements of being a spirit artist now, I know,
Yeah,
but that as a medium, you can allow spirit to influence you to capture the likeness of somebody that's passed in spirit. It is just miraculous.
it
And
is.
like I just, every and it's that's where I'm developing. And I am very much so in development stage. But then I suppose you're always in development, aren't you, as a medium? But I'm just blown away when I do, or when spirit actually helped me capture that likeness. And yeah, sometimes I'm just lost for words because it's like, how did that happen? How did it happen? You know, because I wouldn't be seeing the person. Yeah, that's really important actually to say. I'm sure some people that work as spirit portraiture artists see the face of the person in spirit. My nature as just an artist per se is that, and it has been from the time I started. When I look at something, say I look at you, I can't draw you. I find it so hard and I close. It's like I get blocked. I find it very hard to actually work like that. And that's always been my way. It's
Yeah,
very much so from inside. I don't know what's coming out onto the paper, even for angels or whatever it is. I don't know what's coming. So I only on one occasion did see somebody physically working with spirit portraiture. And it was for my husband because I was practicing on him. He didn't know what I was doing. But I said, I saw this man and he said, oh, that's my Uncle Jim. So it was like, oh, but that never happened again.
yeah,
So it's spirit had me working very blind. And I think that happens for a lot of mediums. You're not actually seeing the person in spirit. Spirit is influencing. That's what I feel for myself.
yeah,
It's like I have to get as quiet as I can. And sometimes that's a challenge because you do get a little nervous and uptight. It's my nature. I do. But when you try and get as quiet as you can and just obviously just allow spirit to move you. I go back to that feeling of movement and just allow it. It's like a dance. And then as you work, what I found is the more I do it, the more, and I know this is the same for many other spirit artists, they start to see it's as though spirit is laying down the image on the page just ever so gently for the pencil or whatever you're using to follow. It's quite interesting. It's like it's just ever so lightly placed. You
yeah.
can't see it fully, but that's what I feel is happening with me at times. I won't say always. um, but I just find I find it just incredibly beautiful and so powerful that, and how would I say, again, Dana said something lovely the other day when I was speaking to her. She said it's like the cherry on the cake in terms of evidence that, we live on. And that's what is so beautiful. And I think it's really helped me with my own faith as well. I won't lie. It has really helped me. And I think that's been very important, very healing for me in terms of the trauma I had through my illness and losing my faith. You know, it's really, and I really thank Spirit for that because that's given me back my sense of purpose again, my sense of hope.
Yeah.
And again, that's so important for us, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just for myself, when I see people that are able to do spirit art, I'm always in awe. And I think too, it's that, yeah, like Dana said, that cherry on top, because you can do a mediumship reading, and yes, you're gonna feel it because I do when I receive it. So I know because you bring through the memories and it touches people's hearts and it's so healing. But then to see an artist, a spirit artist, to actually draw the picture, and then for you to go find the picture in your home and be like, "How did she do that?" It's the same picture. It's identical, the eyes, the hair, the everything. I just find that's, like, such a miracle. It's so
It
cool.
is. And, the wonderful thing, because I'm not actually out in the world working, um, I find there's some wonderful platforms that people like myself who are developing, where we can place, because how I'm working a lot at the moment, apart from just being in, you know, circles and working that way. But for me to develop and offer to the public, which I feel is a lovely way to do it. Um, there's and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's an online spirit portrait, a platform where people like myself who are developing, I will go upstairs. I will feel, oh, somebody's coming, and I'll get excited and I'll go upstairs. I don't know who it is or whatever, but I'll go up and I'll draw and I'll get information and I'll just take it all in. And then the wonderful thing is that I get to put it up on to this platform, and you see all these wonderful, lovely people looking for their loved ones. It's just so moving. They're searching, whether it's a child, a mother, a father, um, and you know, you put the image up that you've sketched along with the information, the evidence, and you will see people, saying, "Oh, I think that could be my mom." They read the information, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Well, I can take all the information, and here's the photo of my dad." And when you see the photo, and it's like, "Oh my God, it's practically the same." How did that happen? It's just, it's incredibly moving, um, for everyone involved, and I think that's what's really beautiful. It's moving for me because it helps me with my faith. I'm also feel I've been of service not only to spirit but to the lovely souls that are looking for their loved ones, and it's just such a beautiful way to work. So, I don't know where it's going. I still kind of go sometimes, well, you don't always get it 100%, that's the other thing. So I'm kind of, I'm working through all this and understanding it, understanding how spirit works, and why you don't always get it 100%. What was the reason? Sometimes because it's just not that person. It's not your Aunt Betty that we're talking to, but it's your Uncle Joe from your mum's side or something. And they have to go and look for the picture. It's not always the person that comes through, say the medium, or through me as the medium and the artist. It's not always the person. It could be your, great grandfather, but we're speaking to your grandmother, so it's quite fascinating, and I feel I'm been exposed to learning, which is wonderful, So, and there's some lovely mediums that I'm always so grateful to. There's some circles, and they're so supportive, these women. Um,
Yeah,
and in terms of helping, you know, mediums to develop in a safe place. So it's really lovely. So I'm really enjoying it and been really hopeful, but it has changed, the art. So I'm really curious as to going ahead. My heart is still with the gallery. I would love one day to be able to reopen it for people,
yeah,
It's like yeah, I would love that one day. God willing. I
yeah,
have to be open, and if it's to happen, it will. But with the portraiture, I'm really interested. And Dana was saying that hopefully we're going to be doing a little thing. I don't know, in November. So I'm really excited because when I met Dana, I just love her energy, and she's just a bubble of fun and light. And so I'm
yeah,
really, because I'm kind of, I would get a little nervous and I'm a little shy, but I think what she felt, the urge to reach out to me. So I'm kind of going, well, okay, Spirit, I was asking you to kind of push me along, because the old fears can hold you back sometimes. So,
Yeah,
but
and
she's been amazing. Just the
she
encouragement has been phenomenal.
I love it, and for those of you who are listening and wondering, "Who is Dana?" Dana is our friend, Dana Louise from Australia, and she is a gifted spiritual medium and a healer, and, yes, it was Dana that connected the 2 of us.
Yes.
Because she had met you, and then she messaged me, and she's like, "You gotta meet this woman. You gotta get her on your podcast. She's incredible. I love her." I was like, "Okay, whatever Dana says," I'm like, "I'm in, I'm in." Because she's got a heart of gold, right? I find anyways. And maybe she's listening to this and blushing a little bit, but that's okay. We love you, Dana. I you know what? I can't like, as you keep talking and, I just keep getting this image. Are you looking at creating your own book with your artwork? Was that, like, one of your ideas that you're doing? Or no? You haven't thought about that? Just
Well,
planting the seed.
people keep saying it to me that I should maybe put the story together, that it would help a lot of people,
A
and
book for your
just the
art.
sharing. Um, the thing about it is I kind of go, oh, I don't know, because I'm and I know there's ways of overcoming it, but I'm hugely dyslexic. When I'm writing from inside, when I'm
Yeah,
getting an inspired message, it's completely different because it's not me.
yeah,
But and it writes itself. But so people have said it to me. Maybe one day, I mean, I have my little deck of cards. I did create them years ago from the paintings, and they were kind of as a support to keep the doors open to the public, always free of charge. So they were all our little things that we had together. So that's something that's really lovely because they've been out of print for since I became ill. So it's only we're actually now I got the opportunity to reprint my beautiful little angel deck. And so that's a little again, it's another little step forward for me out into the world and
yeah,
just so that kind of thing is beginning to happen, which is
yeah.
interesting, you know.
Baby steps.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm really, excited, and I'm I'm at the point now where because of everything that I've been through, those dark nights of the soul, the challenges of the illness, and it's like when you start coming out of it, you see the little simple things are the most beautiful and
Yeah,
the most precious. And it's like I'm trying to be more, how would I say, open and moving forward than kind of afraid. Because I'd always, as a kid, been afraid of everything. So I'm doing my best just to kind of open and move forward,
yeah.
and trust that, there's lovely people around and, everything's going to be okay. And spirit are here and,
Yeah.
so, but
I
yeah.
agree. I'm scared of my own shadow. So, and people are like, "You're a media. It's okay. You're still allowed to be scared."
Yeah. I'd be in a sweat, you know. It's terrible, but I suppose when you're sensitive, you're just been sensitive to ourselves, aren't we?
Or sense
We blame it on that.
I can blame it on that, but it's yeah, I find people interesting. Like, even when I started the podcast, I was terrified. My first episode, I had a friend do it with me because I'm like, "I'm scared." But it's that feeling of, I know I need to do it. I know I want to do it. I know, like, that influence of spirit, like, you have to do it, but then at the same time, completely terrified of, but what if it fails? What if this happens? What if that? Like, because I got a lot of what ifs going on. And you can relate the, what am I doing? But
Yeah,
then that overwhelming influence by spirit and trusting and knowing it will be okay.
yeah,
And now I'm okay. I've had a lot of disasters where the mics don't work, there's no volume, all those things you're scared of.
yeah,
And then it's like,
yeah.
I survived. It's okay.
Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah, mine is, oh, but, I couldn't say I'm an artist. I
Yeah.
don't have a certificate. I didn't go to college. Or now it was not so long ago, but I couldn't really say I'm a spirit artist because I'm not trained, you know? Like, I go through all of these
Yeah.
horrific things in my head,
We all do.
and it's like, "What are you
Imposter.
doing?"
What do they call it? Imposter syndrome until we
Yeah.
step into it, and it's like, "But you are amazing." You're like, "Really? You sure about that?"
And my daughter actually said, "Mom, you just have imposter syndrome." I was like,
Yeah.
"What does that mean?" Just you have imposter syndrome, go and Google it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
So
but it's like, yeah, so I even feel I'm only coming out. I said to my husband, you know,
yeah,
I'm only feeling it's only in the last year I've put up my Facebook. See, I've been technically I'm absolute disaster now because I've lost 10 years of even knowing how computers work. I can't do banking, online stuff, nothing. But no, I've lost my train. Oh yes. Um my my daughter said, you're gonna have to look at your Facebook, mum, just, maybe put a few things up or whatever, it's important. And but it's like the deliberation over just putting my name up, or do I put medium? Do I put spirit artist medium up? What will
yeah,
people think? And then since I've started putting up some of my, portraits, spirit portraiture, and do you recognize this person? I've had loads of people drop off my Facebook completely.
yeah.
They've all disappeared. Everyone, around where we live, they've all disappeared. There's nobody.
Oh my
Everyone's dropped off. But as I said to my husband, I have to come out. I have to say, I have to own it now. I've gone because I'm 54. I have to start owning who I am. You know, I'm yeah. I don't really know what it is I am, but I have to start owning it, whatever it is. And people have said, "Well, you are a medium and you are a spirit artist." So I said, "Okay, that's what I'll call myself." But so I've come out of my closet, and at 54, I'm calling myself a spirit artist and medium.
Yeah,
So
yes. Oh, I agree. I know that feeling. Like I'm turning 54 next month, and I started sharing more on my Facebook, and then I've lost people, and I'm like, it's okay. You're not my people. And then I'm getting new friends, and I'm like, it's okay.
yeah,
You gotta
new
be okay,
beginnings.
right? We're okay with who we are. So I notice on your website you have your daughter Emmy,
That's
correct?
right. Yes,
She
Emmy.
is your CEO. She's your
Oh
boss.
my God, she is. Oh my God, she is.
I love it. I love that she helps you with the business, correct?
Oh yeah, she's been absolutely phenomenal. Um, she's great. Now she's running her own business as well, but
Yeah,
she's been so supportive and just helping support me, just to kind of bring me back to life as such,
yeah,
because it's all changed now, obviously.
yeah,
Everything is done online. It's TikTok, it's videos, and it's like it's so overwhelming. So she's kind of just, okay, mom, we'll put your images up. We'll put your spirit guides up. We'll put some of your pictures up. Don't worry, leave it to me. And she said, you just do that weird thing that you do, and I'll just look after that side of it. you know I never was that side of it anyway, the business side. As I said, my poor husband, just let me create the environment, and that's it. You do the rest, you know. But yeah, so she's been amazing, and she's put that up for me. Yeah. I
yeah.
still don't get it right, but she's doing it for me.
She's doing it. So we're gonna do a shout out to your daughter, Emmy, and say, thank you for supporting your mom because she does amazing work. We all need an Emmy in our lives. Let's be honest. We all need support. So I
Yeah,
think that's beautiful.
yeah.
Um, I just want to say, oh my goodness, the hour flew by. So
It's
it
probably
has.
it's probably gone a bit over.
So I I would love to have you back. And the door is always open. You're always welcome to come
Aw.
back. So thank you. And for your website, it's Gifts for the Soul. Yes. Is that a .com?
It's gifts for the soul by Lorrie.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna have those the live link to her website. So it's gonna be on the podcast, it's gonna be on the YouTube channel. If you guys are listening on the podcast and you want to see what Lorrie looks like, go on over to YouTube and check it out. Go to her website, see all the beautiful artwork. So people can purchase this, correct? Like on your website?
Yes, well, my daughter's put up like everything that you would see up there are prints of the original, say, ancient paintings or spirit guide portraits. So they're prints. You can order a spirit guide portrait. It may take a little time, but yeah, so there's things like that. And then of course I'm hoping to get my little deck of cards up and running, and but yeah, so you can find different things on there and she updates it every so often and
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Okay, so I will have that up, and if you guys have any questions for Lorrie, feel free to email her with any questions or questions you may have about ordering. But definitely go check out her website. The artwork is just breathtaking, and I feel like like just when I was even looking at it last night, it transports you. And then that painting behind you, is that one of the ones you've created, the angel behind you?
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this is a little print of the
yeah,
original. The original is in a big box upstairs, but
yeah.
that would be one of them. Yes, yeah. That was
You
Angel of Purity. So yeah, but
Absolutely beautiful.
yeah.
So thank you so much for spending this time with us. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, lovely to meet you. Bye bye.
Bye.